These three metal guitar methods are gonna bring out the 80s hair metal in your playing. So this is gonna be really cool and really fun video here. But I do wanna get some help on the demonstration of what we're about to go through here. So hold on just one second. Let's call Gunnar. He's perfect for this. Gunnar, there he is. Hey bro, what's up, man? Gunnar, dude, what's going on, man? So listen, dude, I'm in the studio right now, and I was wondering if you want to come up and just throw down some 80s hair metal riffs. I'm just a little busy right now, kind of in the middle of something. Oh, dude, but our audience, they're waiting for these riffs, man. I mean, can you just take a quick break and come up and help me out? Okay, dude, okay. But dude, are you gonna pay me this time? Dude, I thought I just bought you that Arnold book you've been asking for. But look, we'll talk about payment. We'll talk about that. Just come on up, dude. Let's get this out there. All right. I'll be right up. This first metal guitar method is kind of like what I consider the foundation or the culprit of the 80s hair metal style of playing guitar. And if you notice the chords and notes that Gunnar was just playing, he played a lot on those D and G strings, bringing out those higher notes. And I don't really have a fancy name for this method here. It's just simply playing a lot of your chords on the higher strings there, as opposed to playing them with the lower notes like we typically think of when we think of metal. We think of dark and just heavy, which usually equates to low notes. But playing on the higher strings, playing your notes and chords, it just gives it like this different vibe, and it just kind of screams 80s hair metal. So I want to just share a quick example though of kind of like, I guess what I would consider maybe classic metal or just typical heavy metal here. Gunnar, can you play us just like, not an 80s hair metal riff, but just whip out any old typical stock metal riff. You can just make it up like you always do. Yeah, that was kind of your typical metal riff there, right? We've got those low notes, we got that E power chord, that F, and some other cool notes in there, kind of dark and heavy. But when we switch back over to the 80s hair metal style of playing, we get a completely different vibe from that. And again, I think it's just one of those things that just kind of screams 80s hair metal. Now, it doesn't mean that all hair metal songs or all the bands were playing in those keys, using those higher notes, but even the songs, if you pay attention and like really dig deep into the hair metal era, even the songs that were played with the heavier notes that were maybe in the key of E minor, I know a lot of those bands would downtune as well, but in those lower keys, playing those lower notes, they would still integrate this element, this vibe that you're feeling, that you're hearing from these higher strings that we just heard Gunnar play. So with that, I want to give you my three favorite metal songs or 80s hair metal songs that use this higher string strategy. One is Back for More by Rat. And that was kind of the first thing you heard Gunnar trying to play earlier, but that's just a cool song. And then sometimes when I think of Rat, of course, that the song that pops in my head immediately is Round and Round, because that was I think their most popular song, but I actually like Back for More a lot better. That's just a really cool song. Just got a kind of a cool, kind of a dark groove to that as well. Now, song number 2 is by Dokken, Dream Warriors. Now, that is a killer song. I've always been a fan of George Lynch's playing. His style was had this just wicked sensation to it. Dream Warriors, and also, you know, that song was on the Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 movie, which was called Dream Warriors as well. The third song I want to mention here is Somebody Save Me by Cinderella. That is one killer tune. Love that song. It's actually very similar to the first two songs that we talked about just now. The groove and the progression and everything, but still just a cool song. And again, they're using those higher strings there to give you that vibe and that sound. So cool stuff there. This second metal guitar method is another thing that's just going to bring out that 80s hair metalish style of guitar playing, and those are called the squills. Actually, they're not called squills. I just used to call them that when I was younger. They're actually called pinch harmonics. You know, I learned that term like way later, like probably 15 years after I've been playing guitar. Look, I was always a little bit behind. That's a story of Jason's life. Anyway, this is a strategy used quite often, I know, in a lot of metal music in general, but there was a way that they did it that just seemed to fit in the 80s hair metal style of playing. It just really fit those songs, and I don't, you know, I never heard it overdone throughout the 80s era there, but it was kind of just like thrown in here and there at the right spots within the song. And the funny thing is, a lot of the bands, maybe they had one or two songs that had those pinch harmonics, but maybe every song didn't have them. So it seemed like they just knew where to put those, where to place those pinch harmonics to just kind of capture your attention and bring you in and just really keep you listening. And that's what writing music is all about. You know, when you learn how to do something that's really cool, like pinch harmonics or sweep arpeggios, you don't necessarily want to do them all the time because that gets old. You want to have that element of surprise. It's like, okay, you're playing that riff and then all of a sudden, whoop-pow, you whip out the pinch harmonic and you pull it right back, and maybe you don't do it again until the next measure or next verse or chorus, or maybe not at all. Maybe you don't do it again until the next song or two in the album. It's just one of those things you can just kind of throw out there now and then, and it just sounds really cool. So I'll tell you the three songs here that I'm reminded of when I think of pinch harmonics as far as 80s hair bands goes. But real quick on the technique, I'm going to have Gunnar show you on screen here. This is how I hold my pick and how Gunnar holds his. We hold it the same way. Imagine that. But anyway, so you can see that I've got my thumb placed there at the edge of the pick, because that's really what the pinch harmonic is. You're basically picking that string with your finger, or with your thumb rather, and your pick kind of at the same time there. Of course, your pick's going to hit it first, but then your thumb's going to immediately follow almost simultaneously. And that's what's going to create that pitch harmonic. One thing I will note is, you know, there are certain spots on your fretboard, so you really have to know your guitar in and out. There are certain frets that you're going to pick those up a little bit easier than others. So this is just practicing and being consistent and knowing your instrument, knowing where you can get those at. And of course, it has a lot to do also with where the gain is set, you know, and that sort of thing. So all those things combined. I actually have another video on pinch harmonics, so if you're having trouble with that, check this out later. I'll put it up here. I'll leave a link in the description of the video as well, so you can go watch it later. Three of my favorite 80s hair band songs that use pinch harmonics, and again, just subtle parts of the song. One is Mr. Rainmaker by Warrant. Actually, I would venture to say that's one of my favorite 80s hair band songs. It's just cool. I mean, it's just got a really good groove, a really good rhythm to it. It's just an awesome song. And he does it in that part that's played in the intro, and also that's kind of played in the verse of the song as well. Next up is All She Wrote by Firehouse. Now, that is a cool song as well. And he kind of does that in, like, I guess it's the part, the pre-verse part, when you're going into the verse, that little section of music before he starts singing in the verse. Then you've got the chorus, and he'll do that again and go into verse, chorus, and so forth. But he does some really cool squills in that section of the song as well. Really cool song too. Next is 18 in Life by Skid Row. He really throws in, and I think it's Sabo, the guitarist, he really throws in some killer pinch harmonics in just these little places throughout the song. In fact, he's doing a lot of just cool little riffs throughout that entire song when the distorted part of the guitar is going. So listen to that and you'll hear those little pinch harmonics, especially when you get into that second verse there. You'll hear those pinch harmonics thrown in there. third metal guitar method that just screams 80s hair metal, and this one's kind of hard to describe, but you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about when I say it, so I'm just gonna say it, is 80s hair metal had this really awesome sense of melody throughout their music. Like almost every hair metal song, it had a very catchy and specific melody. This is kind of where the hair metal kind of differentiated themselves. Well, one of the ways, I mean, the hair and makeup was one way, but this was musically how they differentiated themselves from other metal. A lot of other metals kind of got that dark undertone, a bit evil. And although, yes, there is melodic metal out there, aside from the hair metal really had this amazing sense of melody, this kind of like make you feel good. Now, some of it was kind of like party music, you know, the songs that were written, especially a lot of the Poison songs, some of that stuff was written in major chords or whatever, so it's just a happy party song. But the hair metal that was written in the minor keys, which a lot of it was, I don't know, it just gave you this sense of melody. Now, the first song I'd like to bring up when we're talking about the sense of melody in the hairband era is by Alice Cooper, and the song is Poison. Now, this is at the tail end of the 80s. I think that was released in 1989. Of course, you know, like the 80s, that hair metal era kind of like filtered over into the early 90s until it got phased out by the grunge, and we'll talk about that another day, or maybe we won't talk about it. Now, there can be some debate here as to whether or not Alice Cooper or this era of Alice Cooper can really be considered hair metal, because obviously Alice Cooper, he had been around a lot longer than these hair metal bands. He had been doing this thing for a long time. So there's probably some debate like, wait a minute, Alice Cooper doesn't really belong in the hair metal scene, but I'm going off of that era, that specific era of his music in like the mid to late 80s there. So, hey, if you disagree or if you think otherwise or just have any thoughts on that, please leave those in the comments. It always strikes up a good conversation. I threw it in there because it kind of like fit the bill for me. Anyway, moving on to song number 2 that has an amazing sense of melody, and Gunnar kind of screwed up the solo here. He was playing it, but then he went off and did his own thing like he always does. But that is Europe's The Final Countdown. Now, that song had it was more like an anthem, or is an anthem, but just a tremendous sense of melody from the song to the vocals to even the guitar solo. And this is in my book where a lot of guitar players have a hard time. Maybe they can play fast and do this and do all these tricks, but when it comes to playing a melodic solo that really just speaks to people, that's memorable, I think guitar players, good guitar players, have a hard time with that sometimes. But you know what? John Norum, he nails it every time. Third and final song here when we're talking about a sense of melody is Def Leppard's Hysteria, the song Hysteria. Oh, I'm mesmerized by that song. I have been since the first time I heard it. Actually, that entire album, I loved it. Now, of course, that's definitely considered hairband material there, but just the song, though, Hysteria, just those simple 3-note patterns in that chord and the clean part with that little bit of ambient sound in the background there as he's playing that on the record. It's just so cool. I love that song. I could talk about it for days. But yeah, those are the 3 songs when I'm thinking of sense of melody in the 80s hairband era. So I told you to hang around till the end of the video. Here we are, and I hope you're hanging around. If so, I want you to tell me which of the methods that we just went over, which one of those would you like for the next lesson to be on? Just pick one method, and the more responses I get, or the most responses I get, I will do a video on that method. I'll do a lesson, and of course I'll put the tabs up for that lesson for my Patreon supporters. So that'll probably come out about a week after this. It'll be after Christmas 2021. But yeah, leave me a comment. So again, the 3 methods were playing chords and notes with the higher strings. We'll just call it number 1, higher strings. Or do you want a lesson on pinch harmonics, which I've already got a video on that, but I'd be happy to do another lesson and dive a little bit deeper into that. Or number 3, would you like a lesson on melodies, on really writing rhythmic patterns and just writing songs and metal riffs that have more of a melodic sense to them and just have that heartfelt kind of hair metal. It doesn't even have to be hair metal, but you get what I'm talking about. Just have that great sense of melody. So again, number 1, higher strings. Number 2, pinch harmonics. Number 3, riffs with melodies. Let me know in the comments which lesson you want. I'll probably ultimately do lessons on all of them multiple times over, but the next lesson I do will be on one of those, and that will be your choice. So yeah, leave that in the comments. Don't forget to check the description of this video here. I have got my free practice guide, Metal Riffs and Licks, so definitely pick up your copy of that if you do not have it. I know that's helped a lot of people. I've actually enhanced that guide over the years too, so it's pretty cool. You get a video, I send you to a video, which is actually on my website, but then I give you the tabs that you can actually download for that as well. So it's a really good free practice guide. If you already have that guide, you guys know about my guitar courses. I've got my beginner's metal guitar course called Metal Guitar Apprentice, and I've got the next level up, which is Metal Riff Master. You learn over 80 metal riffs and just a lot of cool stuff in that course. And for those of you who have purchased my courses, thank you so much. I truly appreciate you. This is how I make my living, guys, so I truly appreciate it. On that note, I put a lot of time into everything that I do. I put a tremendous amount of effort into everything that I put out there for you guys, so you're going to get top quality. And my supporters, my current supporters, you guys already know that. You can vouch for me. So anyway, guys, thank you again for your support. Those links again are in the description of this video. Don't forget to comment and let me know what you want the next metal guitar lesson to be on. I'll get it out before the end of 2021 here. We're just about a few days away from Christmas here, but I'll have it out next week for you. But let me know in the comments. Again, number 1, riffs with higher strings. Number 2, riffs with pinch harmonics. Number 3, melodic riffs. So let me know which one of those in the comments. Guys, thank you once again. Please like this video. Make sure you're subscribed. And you know what to do until the next one. Keep it metal.